Down on the Black Sea coast of Russia, the city of Sochi is busy preparing for the 2014 Winter Olympic Games. Construction is booming, transport infrastructure is being completely revamped, and disabled access points are being installed across town. But aside from being Russia's second Olympic city, Sochi is also one of the country's most popular tourist destinations. People flock here for the long, hot summers, the spacious beaches, and the warm seas. But if you're looking for more than just a tan, it's also an area filled with some amazing natural highlights.
So I've been spending a lot of time in the city, but up in the mountains there's the Caucasus Reserve, which is literally the size of Finland. So I've met up with my very experienced guide Alexei, and we are off on an adventure.
It's fair to say that if you're driving up here, then you're in for a bumpy ride. You might be lucky and find some tarmac, but mostly it's just dirt tracks and rocks. Fortunately, Alexei's wonderfully named Wazik is up to the task.
Well, it might not look like much, but the suspension on this thing is second to none. We have gone up and down and crashed and bashed, but it's still going. I don't think you can ask for much more. Luxury travel. I do love it so.
Just a couple of days in the Caucasus Reserve had whet my appetite for the mountains. The biosphere here is filled with unique flora and fauna and has some of the best hiking trails in the country. But getting to them wasn't going to be easy, especially as there are plenty of places that even the Wazik can't go.
James, take this one, please.
Yes.
It'll be my bike.
Okay. So I'm on the blue one.
To get into the forest, we needed to cross a nearby river. But along rugged paths like these, you need to be careful where you're putting your wheels.
And puncture. One of the problems of mountain biking is it's pretty easy to get a puncture if you run over a sharp rock. Fortunately, Alexei seems to have everything in hand. It's not bad for a patch job, is it? Hope it'll hold anyway.
And once we were up and rolling, it was time to head across the water.
This one's a bit wider. See if we can avoid falling in. The current's a bit fiercer here.
Alexei works as the head of a conservation park and knows almost everyone based in the Caucasus National Reserve. He gets to go home most nights, but there are forest rangers that live here with their families 365 days a year, and their little enclave was our next stop. The rangers are here to police the reserve and keep it as unspoilt as possible. And even though it's still late summer, they're already preparing for the winter.
The area covers a total of 54,000 hectares. That means we've got a lot to do, considering that the group is very small. The season's almost over.
Shall we help out?
Of course we can, sure.
Help is always welcome.
It was great to eat some real food after a long ride, and lending a hand in the fields seemed like the least we could do.
It takes quite a lot of upkeep, this place, and that includes several hungry horses. So the more hay we collect now, should be enough to hopefully see them all through the winter. Oh, I'm wondering how much I can balance on my fork here. It's quite a good lot, isn't it?
After a couple of hours, we'd gathered a mini mountain, and Ranger Alexander took us off to collect our reward. We still had a fair way to go, and I was pleased to have someone else doing the hard work.
Okay, in the stirrups. So I'm on Butch here, which I guess means that Alexei is on Sundance. And I'm hoping that it should make going up the hills a little easier anyway. Is that right, boy? You'll be all right?
Once our guide had got his rather spirited mount under control, we rode off into the forest.
I'm glad I've got the calm one here.
The paths here can be a little treacherous, and I was glad to have Alexander leading the way down to the water's edge.
Atta boy.
We managed to cross over, but with the pathway getting narrower, Alexander was forced to turn back with the horses, and Alexei and I were on foot again. But not for long.
We're away past the Mazimta River's spring high point, but the water here is still fairly fast flowing. So Alexei and I are going to need something quite sturdy if we're going to get down in one piece. And I think that this should do the trick nicely. See you at the bottom.
Rafting is one of the most popular summer sports up here in the mountains, and various companies offer trips down the river and extra crew to make up the numbers. And it certainly helps with the paddling.
Well, it wasn't exactly white water, as you can probably tell by the fact that I'm still dry. But we've made it, we're down here. And now we get to tackle the cliffs themselves.
I was expecting a nice hikeable path up into the reserve, and apparently one does exist. You just have to climb up to it.
What I'm worried about is that this is supposed to be the easy part. Oh, God.
Grabbing a helmet and harness from the group at the bottom of the cliff, I prepared for the ascent.
I've been on a couple of rock climbs before, but this is particularly steep. Nosh has got me through everything so far, so I'm going to put my faith in him once again.
But our first attempts didn't exactly inspire confidence.
Now, Alexei's done this before and he's having a bit of trouble. I might need some luck here.
Are you coming?
Okie dokie. Here goes nothing. Let's see how far we can get up.
It seems to do this sport well, you have to have incredibly strong fingers, as it's impossible often to grip a rock with the whole hand. Otherwise, it can be a very painstaking process. But after some long breaks and the odd cut and bruise, we made it to the path above.
Well, we've made it to the top.
Broken and a bit bloodied.
Feeling sore?
I'm not sure my shoulders are ever going to be the same, but up and onwards, eh?
Finally, we had mountains all around us and a clear road ahead, and Alexei and I could start our trek into the middle of the reserve. We still had a long climb in front of us, but at least it wasn't vertical this time.
Well, the trails just started to even out a bit, thankfully, because it's been really tough so far. I'm still sweating, but wow, look at that. I think it's all going to be worth it.
This trail has only been created in the last few years, and it's made the tough journey up into the reserve considerably easier, meaning more people have a chance to enjoy it. But there's still plenty of work going on up here to make the area more welcoming for tourists.
There's nothing like a 4-hour hike into the mountains, followed immediately by some construction work. But as Alexei is kindly guiding me up here for free, I think the least I can do is do my bit for the national park.
All the building is done using ecologically friendly material, and the team up here are busy creating 2 new houses for those visitors who prefer not to sleep out in the elements. But for now, it's a case that if you want a decent kip, you bring your own tent.
We'll try to get her up quickly before the weather changes.
It's already a little bit grey.
Fortunately, we'd brought a modern tent with us, and it was only a few minutes before everything was staked out and ready to go.
There we go. Home sweet home. Ooh. Time to get some grub on, I think.
It wasn't exactly going to be haute cuisine, but as long as it was hot and there was plenty of it, it was fine by me.
Here, take this. You can warm up with some tea. I recommend drinking it with some honey from our local bees, because it's naturally effective.
In the meantime, I was enjoying a brew with a good dollop of honey, and it's a bit of a local specialty here.
The reserve is full of beautiful flowers like these, and that means millions of bees. Grey Caucasian mountain bees, to be precise, makers of the tastiest honey in the region.
Ludmila has been a beekeeper in this beautiful spot for more than 25 years and has dozens of hives in her back garden. And their residents are incredibly well behaved.
That's the first time I've ever seen anybody open a hive and not use smoke. They told me that the bees were quite friendly, and it seems to be the case.
The bees are perfectly adapted for the mountain flowers and supposedly have the longest tongues of all honeybees.
40,000 bees in here, wow.
All of them serving Her Majesty the Queen. Ludmila breeds the queen specially and uses them to start new hives here and across the region. They're highly prolific, and it doesn't take the workers long to produce a honeycomb like this. Just don't expect them to give it up easily.
I'm going to start running down my chin. Oh, look at that. Absolute golden treasure. And for now, we're going to have to share it with the bees.
Packed with sugar and energy, the honey was a great starter, but I was ready for my main course.
The chicken here.
There are many wild animals out here. We could even see bears today if we're lucky. They might come to our tent even.
Bloody old tin openers.
It's because there aren't any berries out there, so they are hungry and on the hunt for food because their hibernation is over now. So let's not leave any empty cans outside.
Certainly don't want to meet any hungry bears here, so to take precautions.
Now let's add some meat.
When you're camping, there's always room for more calories. And who can resist chicken from a can? I'm so hungry I really don't mind, to be honest, at the moment. Everything's going to taste good. And after just 4 or 5 minutes on the boil, it was time to dig in.
James, hand your bowl over. This is porridge, or soup, or I don't know what exactly to call it.
It doesn't matter. We just need to eat.
Food we eat out here needs to be filling with lots of calories, so you have plenty of energy. Bon appetit. And some for me. So, how is it?
Actually, it's surprisingly tasty. I haven't eaten in about 8 hours, mind you, but...
I was completely exhausted, and with darkness closing in, I was ready to crawl into my sleeping bag and just hope that Alexei didn't snore too much.